Welcome to Pencil Leadership. I'm Chris Anderson, success and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I'm on a mission to help you realize your full potential so you can leave a positive mark on the world. So if you're ready, take out your pencils and let's begin. And if you want to make a difference in the lives of others, share this episode, go over to Apple Podcasts and follow us there to leave a positive rating and review. And together we can leave a bigger positive mark on the world. All right, welcome back to another recording of Pencil Leadership. I'm Chris Anderson, your host for today on this journey to learn about how to execute better, have better productivity, and just overall better success, really, when we can have better execution in our lives. And I'm bringing on someone whose expertise is just at helping brands execute better. And so we have Lucas Root on the show today. And Lucas is a speaker mentor, and I love this part, a Jedi master for process execution. So I'm going to let Lucas share a little bit about himself here in a second. But first, Lucas, welcome to Pencil Leadership today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, Chris.
Absolutely. Looking forward to diving in this topic with you and learning from you. But first, share with everybody a little bit about yourself, man.
Wall Street for 17 years. It was a grinder. It was, in fact, the grinder that everybody wonders if it's going to be. One of the cool things about going through a grinder like that is that you either learn how to be incredibly efficient or you get chewed up and spat out. And I suppose I did both because I was only there for 17 years. But I also learned how to be incredibly efficient. And it's turned into something that I really enjoy talking to audiences about and helping them understand what are the things that are impacting your productivity and how to sort of level up. 6 years ago, I started my consulting company. I landed my largest, longest standing client also first, which is never how things work out. I couldn't have planned it better. The Pokemon Company, and I've been with them for 6.5 years.
Wow.
I also have 13 other clients that range from $2 to $50 million in annual revenue to, of course, just getting to the point where they start to, really understand their place in the marketplace and build out their leadership team and start to make fine-tuned changes, which is when you might want to have a consultant come aboard. And I also am an enormous guzzler of coffee.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to be getting another glass. So this is my batch record day for podcasts. If those listening don't know, I do that. But yeah, so I'll be getting some more. Do you have a favorite roast or anything that you go to? Or you my best friend has all sorts. He's always posting different ones that he's getting into. So I didn't know if you had a specific one right now.
I am a hardcore Bulletproof fan.
Okay.
I am sensitive to mold. So the people that try to remove mold from their process are people that win my business.
Yeah.
And I like his medium roast or his Colombian roast, which is more or less the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. I used to never drink coffee. And then even through college and then after college, I got into coffee a little bit because I was doing Dave Asprey, I was looking into the biohacking and how caffeine's actually good for you in correct quantities and all that. So I was getting into it. I'm like, okay, if it's good for me, I hate the taste. I don't like green tea. So both I started implementing just to improve that in certain quantities, trying not to overdo it. But so I started drinking a little bit of coffee. Now I just enjoy it. And so that's cool. Yeah, I like the Bulletproof. I have a bag in there. I think it's the medium roast, I believe. So
nice.
Yeah, but cool. Well, that's awesome. And it's neat to see just, what you're doing through helping brands execute better. What's it like to work with, and you might not be able to tell me much, but working with Pokemon, what's that? I could just imagine that has to be just fun to work with a company like that. I don't know.
It is a lot of fun. I actually can tell you a lot.
Okay.
I can't tell you what they're doing. And that's the question everybody tries to ask. I can't do that.
Okay.
But I can tell you what it's like to work with them. They're amazing.
That'd be cool.
They haven't published their mission as to make kids smile, but it really is. Their mission is to make kids smile. And I just can't imagine anybody being a more satisfying client than someone whose mission in life is to make kids smile.
For sure. That's
they're
neat.
amazing.
So and you said they're your longest client that you've had or whatever. You didn't expect it. How did that happen? I'm just curious. How did you make that introduction or get in the door, quote unquote, to land that?
Yep. The fact that they were my first client was pure luck.
Yeah. Okay.
looking at the story, it seems like it was potentially inevitable that I'd at least get in the door, not necessarily get hired, but at least get in the door given the circumstances.
Okay.
I was hanging up my consulting shingle, the thing you do.
Yeah.
And I became a dials for dollars expert, like a master of dials for dollars. Like the world revolved around dials for dollars. And, and I'm saying that so that your audience understands, like, you put in the friggin' work and that's what you do. And that's what I did. I thought that I could do 100 calls a day. It turns out that I couldn't, but I thought that I could, and I tried.
Yeah.
And it took a couple of months, and I got a lot of leads to chase down. Try to hit 100 calls a day. Call everybody you know, call everybody they know. Try to hit 100 calls a day. You will get leads.
Yeah.
And eventually, I finally made this call to a director there who actually was a friend of mine. We'd gotten to know each other at conferences and stuff. He wasn't like a close friend. He wasn't family. So it took a little while to get down that far on my Rolodex. But I finally got to him, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, we're actually looking to hire a business strategist. Why don't you come pitch us?"
Nice.
Like, truly. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
Wait, what? Really?
That's cool. And it kind of just, and you must have done it well, right?
And it was a good pitch. Yep.
That's awesome. So that's neat. I always like those sort of how we have a handful of clients, and a lot of them are from referrals and things like that. And so it's all, just providing really good value for the one you have, and let that kind of spread. And I'm sure that's kind of been the same through yours as well. So,
yep.
So I'm excited to dive into this, just about how to execute better, how to be better or have better productivity. I know one of your main courses, or your the main course, is the work from home course, right? Helping people do that and have high productivity, right? So where do we start with getting better at executing and having more better productivity?
So it all eventually comes down to being intentional and mindful.
Okay.
And I try not to use those words because, God, they're overused.
Right.
Everybody says that about everything, but it actually is true. It comes down to being intentional and mindful. Mm-hmm. So here's my approach as an engineer. And again, you're going to see the correlation. Like, it is intentional mindfulness. Look at your entire day, 16, 18 hours long, and look at that as a chunk that you get to divide up into pieces however you want to divide up. Okay. Now, how long do we realistically have good planning? And again, you can look this up in the internet. There are articles about this. Realistically, we have good planning for about 2 hours in our minds, and we can hold that into our head.
Yep. Realistically,
we're able to focus for about 30 minutes. So you've got 2 hours capacity to plan. You've got about 30 minutes capacity to execute. If you know that, accept that, and start to try to actually work with it, then you see that your 16 or 18 hour day breaks up into 2 hour chunks. Cool. Got it.
Yeah.
So then let's look at what those 2 hour chunks look like. Well, the first 2 hour chunk is getting the day started, however you happen to do that. The second 2 hour chunk is probably the beginning of your workday for most people. For me, it is. Mm-hmm. And the question you have to ask yourself is, what am I good at during that 2 hour chunk? Am I good at being productive? Am I good at being creative? Am I good at doing deep strategy work? Am I good at finishing things that were started yesterday? If I'm not good at those things, well, maybe I'm good at doing admin tasks. Everybody does admin tasks. You can't walk away from it. Just accept it. It's part of life. Right. And you see the parallel between this engineer's approach and being mindful. This is all it is just being mindful, but you can look at it from an engineering perspective and break your day up into chunks and be intentional about how those chunks are used. Yeah.
I think that's time blocking. Something I incorporated was a time block. Kind of what you're talking about is breaking up your day. And then I'm sure you've heard of the Pomodoro method.
I love the Pomodoro method.
Yeah. And for those, dive into that. For people who might not know what it is, I'll let you kind of explain on that. The time blocking, which you've already mentioned, and then the Pomodoro method.
Mm-hmm. So the Pomodoro method is actually the tool that you can use that hits the lowest common denominator for a capacity to focus. So when I say you can focus for 30 minutes, that's actually not true. It's 33 minutes plus or minus 7, right? There's a range in all of humanity.
Yeah.
So because it's 33 minutes plus or minus 7, we have to assume minus that 7 that every single person actually can only focus for 26 minutes. 26 is a hard number to remember. I go with 30.
Yeah.
The Pomodoro method goes with that 26. In fact, they go with 25. And so what they do is they say, set a timer for 20 minutes, do 20 minutes of hard, serious work, 100% deep focus. When the timer goes off, no matter what you're doing, put down your pencil. Treat it like a final exam in college. Put down your pencil. Take a 5-minute break, go to the bathroom, get water, wash, rinse, repeat. Yep. You do that 4 times in a row. So there's 4 25-minute chunks, 20 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. At the end of those 4 cycles, you've done an hour and 40 minutes. Now you take a 20-minute break, a full 20-minute break. It becomes a nice, beautiful 2-hour chunk, just like I do my day in 2-hour chunks. The Pomodoro method is about those 2-hour chunks.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. It is. It's really a neat thing. I want to dive into those problems with it. My problem with it is I have trouble stopping. Like I get in the zone and I just keep going. And then like when that timer will go off to take a break, like sometimes I'm like, oh, but I have an hour. Like I could just stay and continue to work. And so like I fight that sometimes. But what, I want to dive into what problems you have with that method as well.
Well, so the way focus works, it's kind of like decision fatigue. It's a different version of fatigue, but it's kind of like decision fatigue. You wake up in the morning, you have 50 decisions. This is not the actual number, but just for example, you have 50 decisions that you can make. And those decisions can be complex. And once you've made those 50 decisions, by the end of the day, or by the end of those 50 complex decisions, you're done. You can't make another complex decision for the rest of the day. All of your decisions after that point are going to be simple. Well, focus works in a similar way. Again, 33 minutes plus or minus 7. Do some self-experimentation, figure out where you fall on that. Once you go past that 33 minutes, it's not like your focus turns off. You don't fall off a cliff. You just start going down a little bit of a hill, and it goes a little bit shallow at first, and it gets steeper as it goes further out. We all have experienced this. Mm-hmm. There is a cost. There's an actual cost. I call it focus debt. There's an actual cost that you incur for going past that threshold, that 33 minutes plus or minus 7. And you can either pay it instantly, and that's sort of what the Pomodoro method is about. You take that 5-minute break and you're paying that cost instantly. But if you don't pay it instantly, you carry that debt until at some point in the future you can pay it. Mm-hmm. And it increases. It's actually geometric growth. So if you do 30 minutes, there's no cost, plus or minus 7. If you do an hour, the cost, I have an estimate, me personally, I have an estimate that it's about a 5-minute productivity debt at an hour. If you do an hour and a half, it's now a 15-minute productivity debt.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If you do 2 hours, it's now a 45-minute productivity debt. The cost is escalating quite quickly.
Yeah.
My problem with the Pomodoro method is this. That cost might be acceptable. Mm-hmm. It might be acceptable. It might be okay to have a 45-minute productivity debt at the end of 2 hours of really awesome crushed work.
Yeah.
You have to pay it. You will pay it somehow. You have to pay it. Your body does not allow you to carry debt for years.
Yeah. So it was like just sleep a way to pay that debt, or is it like I'm done working?
Extra sleep.
Okay.
Yeah. It could be vegging out on the couch with a beer, drooling with the TV on, doing absolutely nothing for 45 minutes.
Okay.
That cost might be acceptable. And that my problem with the way that Pomodoro method exists in the world is that people don't consider the fact that it might be acceptable to pay that cost.
Okay. That makes sense. And, it's kind of like when I do have those longer blocks of work, I work for 2 hours straight or whatever it might be, depending on the day. I feel more mentally tired at the end of the day. And so that's that debt you're talking about.
That's the productivity debt.
Okay. Which is why I sleep longer, I think, on those, because I try to do like a just slow to rise whenever I wake, and some of those days I sleep in, and that would be why, most likely, right? Because I'm recovering from that. Okay, interesting. Now, I haven't heard that perspective, but I like it, and it makes sense because of that, because of how our brains work and everything of that nature. So, and it's been interesting too. So we have and this is March 1st, we're recording this on, but our son, he's 4.5 months old. So that's completely changed now how I time block and how I, have those work times. So usually I would start my day before he was born of, personal development type stuff, self-care type things to get it out of the way so it didn't, get lost in the day, working out, things of that nature. But now in the morning, he sleeps, we wake up, and he takes a big nap right now in the morning. And so that's my work time. So that's like the time I can get a lot and be my most productive because he's not needing me to hold him or feed him or whatever it is. And so like fluctuation, is that still doable to be able to fluctuate? Just trying to change things? Is that harder to change your routine? Like, so when he gets older, it's going to change again. It took me a little bit to get in that new routine, but is that still, I guess what I'm saying is it okay to change up your routine because of circumstances sometimes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. So I used to do all of my creative work in the afternoons, and I built my entire schedule around keeping my afternoons mostly open so I could really get into creative flow and just let myself power through some awesome creative work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it turns out that I now like to do my creative work in the morning. My schedule is set up all wrong.
Yeah.
So now I have to start adjusting my schedule to free up morning brain time to get to my highest value tasks, my highest value output, which is that creative work. Yeah. Always, for everybody, by the way, anyone who's listening, your highest value output is creative work. Always. Protect the time when you're good at creative work. Protect it from anything at all costs.
Yeah. And when you mean creative work, do you actually mean creating content? What do you mean by creative work for those who might wonder?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I do business strategy work for Pokemon. When I'm doing business strategy work, that is actually creative work for me.
Okay.
Creating content, absolutely creative work.
Gotcha.
Dreaming and thinking about the future and scheming. And by the way, for everyone who's listening, if you're not a part of a conspiracy, you should be. Conspiracies are not actually a bad thing. It's a whole bunch of people planning on something in the future. If you're not a part of one, you should be.
Yeah, that's good.
So conspiring, like calling up people and like talking about how we're going to like do these cool things, like whatever these cool things are for you. Yeah. That's creative work. And I now tend to want to do that in the morning. And so I have to, and I'm in the process of it right now. I have to adjust all of my scheduling to free up my mornings so that I can be here with you and be 100% present with you right now in my creative flow.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that's just part of life. Things come and change, and you have to be adaptable and flexible to be able to do that. And yeah, like you said, or you're doing it right now. I just had finished rescheduling everything, opening up, my calls are now earlier because he's sleeping and I don't have to worry about him crying or hope he doesn't. And yeah, I think that's a great thing to remember is you can have that flexibility to do that. So what do you say to people who are maybe trying to just get into increasing their productivity or increase the ability to execute? What are some other ways besides the time blocking and like the Pomodoro method, all that they can start improving that aspect?
Actually, there's a thing that comes first.
Okay.
Because all of that stuff, those are just tools. Time blocking, the Pomodoro method, scheduling, understanding your day in 2-hour chunks, understanding how your brain interacts with focus and your capacity to make plans and execute, right? All of those are just tools.
Right.
They're tools for what? And that's the question that everybody who's listening needs to answer. You have to have a purpose that you're working towards. And that purpose is the gas that your focused productivity car burns in order to fly forward. You have to have a purpose. So that's the thing that comes before. If you want to be productive, have a purpose, have a goal, have a shining North Star, so that every single time something that pops into your mind, again, it goes back to being intentional and mindful. Everything that pops into your mind or pops into your inbox, you can weigh that against your purpose. Does that get me closer to my North Star or further from my North Star?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I've recently, I have Pencil Leadership, and this is kind of just my personal podcast, and I have ideas for it in the future, but Elevate Media is our production company for podcasts, and, getting and growing that business, it got to the point this year, I was like, I'm doing all these things. What actually is purposeful? What is actually moving the needle forward in the business and what I want to get to? Okay, so I need to make sure I'm doing X, Y, and Z, those three things, because those really all that matters. Everything else is just kind of the fluff, things that are just wasting my time or my energy expenditure right now. So can I outsource that to somebody, or does it just need to be, pushed aside? And so I think that's huge, is understanding what you're headed towards, what's your goal. Like if you're climbing a mountain, where the peak is, and it's going to take you X amount of hours probably to get there, energy, you have this much food, so you're not going to go take a detour off to go look at that, whatever it is, if you're trying to get to the peak. And I think that's just a great thing that you mentioned there, is understanding where you're going and what you're wanting to do. Yep.
I hesitate to use the word purpose. I have to, it's the right word, but there's a reason why I hesitate to use that. A lot of people are afraid of the word purpose, and for good reason, because people talk about having this like lofty, super huge purpose, build Tesla company or something like that. It's okay for your purpose to be a month out.
Yeah.
It's okay for you not to know what you want to be when you grow up. I didn't when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I probably didn't start figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up until I was in my mid 30s. It's okay. Yeah. But I always had something I was working towards, and maybe it was a month out, maybe it was 2 months out, maybe it was a year out, but not much further than that, because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't know what's coming, the change.
Yep.
So your direction could change. But yeah, I think that's, and I think it's a big thing with our culture now is, in high school, they're supposed to know what their next steps are for their future. So then they can all that pressure right then. I know for me, and I'm thankful for my journey and everything and what I went to school for and all that, because of experiences, but I don't really know what I wanted to do back then. I just kind of said, I like sports. I got hurt a lot, so maybe I'll be an athletic trainer. Okay, cool. Let's go do it. I help people. Great. But there's so much more out there. And I think, just experience life and kind of just see what falls and what kind of is shown to you that way, I think is huge.
Yeah. 100% yes.
So what if people are, they're kind of dabbling in that. They have an idea of what they're trying to build. They're trying to start creating something for their purpose, for the future, but they're hesitant to take action, or they're maybe not as productive. Are there things that you see quite often that hold people back from executing? And if so, how can we get around those?
Yeah. The biggest blocker that I see these days is, let's call it perfection syndrome. Like people who are just unable to stop working at something until it hits perfect. Or they're unable to start until they know they can make it perfect. And yes, it will absolutely sabotage you. It will completely destroy you if you let it. Please do not let it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that perfectionism or that trying to be perfect, especially either the fear of not being perfect or, waiting until it's perfect, all hinder us. And when I start my podcast, I look back to the first episodes and they're terrible. Like, yeah, I didn't have the setup. I didn't have the equipment. I just wanted to start, and I knew that it would improve. And I think that's one thing that is a strength of mine is just doing it. You know, Nike, just do it. Like, just throwing it out there, taking that chance, and then improving along the way. Just doing the best you can, but knowing that it will improve. I think that's one of my strengths. I mean, I have many weaknesses, don't get me wrong, but thankfully, I think that has helped me on my journey, is to be able to do that and kind of just shrug off the mistakes and learn from that. So how can people, yeah, go ahead.
May I offer a reframe?
Sure.
My guess is that you do more than just shrug off the mistakes. My guess is that you actually embrace them.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because that's the only way I can learn what Thomas Edison, I didn't learn how to, or what was it? I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just learned 1,000 ways not to do it, or something like that. Yeah. So, and I think that's what people need to realize. If you're not risking, if you're not trying, if you're not putting yourself out there, I mean, you're not going to grow. And
not going to grow.
The results that come, the positivity outweighs, the temporary pain of fear, or, getting made fun of, or whatever it is that we think is so crucial.
I was a ski racer when I was growing up.
Okay.
Awesome thing to do. It's fantastic. And back then, Bode Miller was sort of reigning supreme king skier.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really love about him is that he either fell or won. He either fell or won. That was it. There was no other path down the mountain for him. He either didn't make it or he won the race. And it's such a great learning experience as a young man watching somebody like that who he lives. If he didn't fall, he wasn't trying hard enough. He lives it. He lives it on the world stage, in FIS, in the Olympics. He shows up every day and he means it. He either falls or he wins, and that's it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's true too. Cause I mean, you've got to be going, full steam ahead. And with that, you're going to trip up. You're going to get, you're going to scrape those knees. You're going to get dirty, and, yeah, that way. I mean, cause once you come to the end of life, like, did you give everything you had, or did you kind of keep a lot in the tank and miss out on what could have been? I think that's a huge thing. And I don't want that. I want to, do everything I can, and whatever happens, and the best will come out, hopefully. So.
Yeah. 100%. So I try to live by that.
Yeah.
Either fall or I win.
For sure.
I'm nowhere near as talented as he was.
Right.
I'm pretty proud of the life that I have, but I'm nowhere near as talented as he is.
Yeah.
And I fall a lot. And you know what? I embrace it. I love it, because every single time I fall, it's an opportunity for me to improve. It's somewhere that I went over the line, but I know I was pushing it to the line, and I just went over. And that's a learning opportunity. How did I go over? Why did I go over? How can I improve whatever it is that I was doing, so that the next time I hit that line, I stay just this side of falling.
Yep. Yeah. And I think those are the best moments to really guide us forward too. Cause I think, whenever I've made a mistake or gotten a result I didn't get the result I was hoping for, it stings a little bit. I remember those, and I remember like, oh, that's not the way I should do it. I need to do that. And so it's actually a real positive thing. In the moment it sucks, but taking it forward, it's a great kind of milestone or marker of what we need to do.
Yes. I love it. That's exactly it. And honestly, would we pay attention if it didn't sting?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
We wouldn't. The sting is actually serving us.
Yep. And that's why it's so scary, people being so complacent, right? Like they just get in their kind of in their bubble and are comfortable. And I think we're missing out on so much greatness from people because of that. And then people are, missing out on what could be in their lives because of staying where they're at.
Yeah. And look, I get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I've earned comfort. Like I live a pretty good life. I've earned it. Here's the thing. I really like my comfort while I'm paying my productivity debt at the end of the day.
Yes. There's a
I
time
really
for
like my comfort then. I don't like my comfort while I'm working.
Yeah.
While I'm kicking ass, while I'm slaying dragons. Yeah. That's not the time for me to be comfortable. That's the time for me to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's huge. And that's a great realization and message. Like, work and be uncomfortable to get to that point where you can enjoy the comfort. And I've had to learn that is a big thing, is enjoying the comfort. Like I had so much ingrained in me, like giving it everything and then some constantly, and not letting myself recover from that debt and having those moments of cover. And it was mentally wearing me down, and it was like breakdowns and things like that. And so I had to learn that part.
You'll get heart attacks. You'll lose your hair. Whichever of those actually scares you more.
Right. Exactly. That was a huge wake up. Yeah. 100%.
Our body is not a good loan shark.
Right. Yep. You got to cash it in sometime. Yeah. So no, this has been good. This has been a great conversation so far, and I wish we could go on hours and hours and hours on this, but for the lack of time, I kind of just want to wrap things up, because we've talked about how to be productive, how to execute better, just how to personally see those obstacles and overcome them and keep moving forward. And so those have been great. And I'm excited for this question that I asked my guests to hear your answer to it, Lucas. Is the fifth trait of Pencil leadership is that everyone's created uniquely and with a purpose to leave a positive mark on the world. And so when everything is said and done for you here on Earth, what do you hope your positive mark is?
I honestly, and this sounds a little bit weird coming from me, but it is God's honest truth. I want to heal the relationship between humans and the earth. That is awesome. The purpose that I work towards. And it's hard for people to understand that when I say that, but listen, all the people that are out there saying save the earth, they're giving you the wrong message. The earth's going to be just fine. In 50 years, 100 years, the earth's going to be fine. 1,000 years, but our relationship with the earth may not be, and we may not be welcome. And that's a real possibility. We may not be welcome here. The earth's going to be fine. We may not be welcome. And that's really not the future I want. Right.
I've never had anyone answer like that. And that's a really interesting and unique perspective, because, I've read books like The World Without Us and things like that. And we need to have that relationship improved. Because if we're gone, like, the earth will be fine. It'll gonna bounce back no matter what. Even if it's from nuclear or whatever it is, it'll bounce back in years.
It'll be back. Yep.
Yeah. But if we're here or not, that's on us to have that relationship to keep it here. So no, I love that. I love that mission, and thank you for sharing that and everything else you've shared today on this episode. If people want to get in contact with you, find out more about what you do, where can they do that? What's the best place for them to go to?
Yeah. Best place to find me is on my website, lucasroot.com. It's got links to all my socials. You can download my free book, which talks about how to kick off a business and, start failing forward as fast as possible, but maybe avoid some of these really big potholes.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, definitely take advantage of that. Get connected with Lucas. Just a lot of good, valuable information he's putting out there and what he's doing. So again, Lucas is speaker, mentor, and Jedi master for process execution. And we are so thankful for you, Lucas, being on Pencil Leadership today.
It's been great. Thank you so much, Chris.
And thanks so much for tuning into this episode today. If you found value at all from this episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps us get this show, these messages out in front of more people. And don't forget to share this with someone who you think could benefit from listening to as well. Now let's go out and be pencil leaders.